Hello, everyone. My name's Duncan White. I'm the managing editor of the International Fire and Safety Journal. And thanks for joining me on this latest edition of Leaders in Fire and Safety, brought to us by the International Fire and Safety Journal. I'm delighted today to be joined by Gustav Stigsohn and Pontus Andersson from Fogmaker. Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Hello, hello. Nice to be here.
Excellent. Yes, it's great that I get this opportunity to speak to so many people within the industry and learn what's happening within technology. So today we're looking at when seconds matter and looking at an awareness in fire safety in vehicles and machines. But before we go too deep into that, Gustav, tell us a little bit about you, your role, and a quick overview of what Fogmaker is for those that don't really understand.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Gustav Stigsohn. I work as a product owner at Fogmaker International. So my main chores are handling the product, deciding which product we should offer, and also a lot of product certificates connected to the product, what to have and what not to have. That's very shortly my work.
Excellent, and that's a very important role as well, especially when we're looking at certifications. And I'm sure that we'll touch a little bit more about that. So, give us a very quick overview of Fogmaker and where you're based and the sort of things that Fogmaker are offering.
Yeah, so Fogmaker is a Swedish company based in Växjö in the south of Sweden. It was founded in 1995. We are around or slightly above 100 people working at Fogmaker, most of them here in Sweden, but some also on other offices in Brazil, Thailand, and Finland. And we do only one thing, you can say. We do fire suppression systems for machines and vehicles. That's what we do.
Excellent. So you do one thing properly rather than lots of things at different levels.
Exactly, yeah.
That's excellent. Pontus, I'm conscious that we haven't spoken to you yet. So tell us a little bit more about you.
So yeah, my name is Pontus Andersson, and I work as a partner manager here at Fogmaker. So I help our partners that we have all over the globe to sell our product and market our product. Everything that has to do with our partners, I'm helping them with. I'm also segment manager for GSE, which is ground support equipment.
Excellent. So you are that pivotal person between the end user and the manufacturer that ensures that everything goes smoothly. And yeah, very, very important role. I was interested there with a company since 1995, 100 people and outlets in Brazil, Thailand, and Finland. That's very impressive, and obviously testament to the quality of the product and the way that you work alongside your distributors and partners. Gustav, I'm going to come back to you now, and we're going to look at the modern vehicles, machinery, and industrial environments. And what are the most misunderstood and biggest fire risks within that area?
I think when we talk about modern vehicles, you automatically think of electric vehicles, or at least I do. And one of the biggest misunderstandings, I think, is that electric vehicles burn more often. Statistics say that it's straight the opposite. Electric vehicles or internal combustion engine vehicles burn 20 to even 100 times more often than electric vehicles. That's one part. And I also think that when you talk about electric vehicles and fires, many people automatically think of the battery pack and believe that that is the biggest risk for fire. But risk is So risk is probability times consequence. So even if a battery fire has a very big consequence, the probability might not be very high. But that's of course something you need to assess from case to case.
Very much so. I think what's interesting there when you talk about the belief around electric vehicles, I think what we've got is the situation where when they do catch fire, they're relatively new news. It's something that the news outlets are all over. It's pretty sensationalist. But if you talk to the people on the ground that roll out the doors in the big red lorries to put out the fires, they'll tell you that they still go to far more fires involving internal combustion engines than they do everything else. What is interesting is that we're in a position where technology is outpaced the ability to respond in many occasions, where we're still working out the best way to deal with the EV fires. We're still working out the best way to deal with thermal runway. So it's an interesting one, and I agree with you in regard to probability, consequence, and looking at that whole bigger picture. Let's move on and look at fire suppression. So in response to the electrification, and more importantly, or as importantly, the sustainability demands to meet the new regulations, how is that technology evolving to deal with those things?
So if we start with fire suppression technology, and for electric vehicles, there actually isn't much new development. You can say that all fires are gas fires, if you want to generalize, but it's true in a way. And even electric fires is gases burning. So with our system, where we have a fixed fire suppression system in a closed compartment, the technology we have also works for electric vehicles without any major changes. The risk assessment could be different, of course, and if you mentioned firefighters earlier, quite a big change for them to work with electric vehicles. There are new risks, but in our case, we don't have any humans in the vicinity of the fire, hopefully at least. So technology-wise, about the same. If we talk about sustainability, one of the major things or in environmental aspects with the fire suppression systems that use liquid suppression agent is the PFAS chemicals. And PFAS is very good and very bad. So it's very effective on fires. It can withstand very high temperature without breaking down, but that's also the problem in the environment. It never breaks down and eventually ends up in our water. So a couple of years ago, we introduced our PFAS-free liquid that we are now introducing to all markets. And we have, of course, done a lot of testing, and we got basically the same or even better results in some case with the PFAS-free. So there are ways to environmental friendly solutions that also works.
Excellent, and again that goes back to the quality of the manufacturing and that drive to be seen to do the right thing when it comes to both environment and life safety. So, Pontus, I'm conscious that you sat there very patiently, and I'm gonna come to you now, and we're gonna look at mitigation and prevention, and how we can learn lessons from real life incidents. Share with us some things that you've witnessed.
Real world fire incidents is that a lot of times the equipment have not been proper inspected. the friction hoses or fittings or turbos, etc. You name it. So what we try to do is that if you have reinstalled the Fogmaker system, so we can have an early automatic suppression. And then we also inform that it's really important to have a proper maintenance of the vehicle and our system, and also train the operators. And this often is the difference between a brief incident or a total equipment loss. Sometimes if it goes really bad, it's human loss, which is even worse. But so we really focus on having the early automatic suppression and do the maintenance. That's really important.
So with the system, let's look at an example. So, for instance, I decide to fit a Fogmaker system onto my piece of heavy machinery that I'm using in my quarry. So, when the system detects a fire, what happens then in terms of the operation of the system and also notification to the operator of the vehicle?
So there is different ways of alarming people, but if a fire starts, our detection tube will burst, which will then automatically turn on our system. So the cylinder will empty our liquid, our fire suppression liquid, which is called Echo 1, which Gustav mentioned before. And that will then suppress the fire that has started. And at the same time, it will give a notice to people around them with a noise, an alarm, and you will see it becomes a big loud.
So in terms of the engine in the vehicle, so will the operator then turn the vehicle off, or is that something that the system does as well?
So no, it doesn't turn. I think you can answer that later on, but I just wanted to mention the good thing with our system is that even though let's say the big machinery is turned off, turn off the engine, our system will still be on. So it's on 24/7, 365 days a year, because you don't need electricity, which is really a big thing, and it's important. Because a lot of times the vehicle just stands there without any people.
Yeah, so generally speaking, machines that are stationary, we try to shut down the engine as soon as we get the fire alarm. But vehicles and machines that are moving, it's typically better to keep them running. In some cases, you need to move the machine from one space to another, or you're in a tunnel or carrying something that you need to drop off. So it depends on the setup.
So it's very much human intervention that deals with the immobilization of the vehicle rather than the system, and that was a great point example there, Gustav, that it gives the operator the opportunity to move the vehicle to a place of safety, rather than put it in potentially a higher risk situation. So yeah, that makes complete sense. I also like the fact that it's sitting there as the non-intrusive security guard all the way through when the vehicle is not being used. You've got a system that we all know that arson is a big issue, and where you've got the protection of really high value equipment being vulnerable to that, having that system fitted, sitting there making no noise but just doing what it's designed to do, gives you real cost effectiveness. Excellent. Gustav, while we're over with you, let's have a look at the regional approach and how different regions look at fire safety. And what can the global fire industry learn from these differences?
So in our world, with the fire suppression systems for vehicles and machines, it's still quite unregulated. There are a few local regulations, but not buses is I think the exception with the regulation 107, where buses and coaches in Europe is now equipped with fire suppression systems. But otherwise, it's local regulations, different regulations for different markets. So it's not an easy.
No, it's like you say, we're currently living in a world where, and I speak to people regularly where you look at all the different certifications that we have across the world, but when you set them side by side, 90% of them cover exactly the same thing. And I know that there's lots of work going on, especially in Europe, looking at a standard system where we can, if it the old adage that if it looks like an ice cream, if it tastes like an ice cream, then it's an ice cream. And it's at times we get very hung up on does it meet this standard, does it meet that standard, and people don't really understand where if you sit down and look at what standards they are, make the comparisons, that yes, it does. It just it hasn't gone through the necessary documentation, and you guys will know this better than most, that the cost of getting the individual certification is absolutely phenomenal, and where we have the best solutions to dealing with fires and emergency scenarios, but we can't use it in different parts of the world just because it doesn't meet that standard. And at times we've got to lift our heads out of the sand and say, let's stop being stupid and start looking at how we can improve fire and life safety.
If I could add something there as well, we have a regulation in the bus segment. We work with it. Fogmaker would work with so many different segments. But even if you talk about Europe, there is a regulation for buses, but not for other machinery.
Yeah, and it's just because it's been certified to work on a bus doesn't mean to say it can't be work just as well on a mechanical shovel or other scenarios. Just because it doesn't have that piece of paper to say it's been certified. And if I owned multi-million pounds worth of machines that I needed some protection to, I wouldn't really worry whether it has got a piece of paper to say it's certified. I come to you guys and say, can your system protect my mechanical shovel? Can you protect my investment? Which, as you just said, that's of course it can. But you also need to look at the insurance companies, because if you're putting in place control measures to protect your assets, then your insurance company should be rewarding you with lower premiums because you are lowering the risk. And again, the whole issue of protecting assets and reductions in premiums is a whole debate that we could probably have for 3 weeks and still have plenty more to talk about. We've covered a lot of ground very quickly, and I think at this stage, I'm just going to interject to the audience listening. I'm here talking in English, which is my native language, about technical things which I understand. I've got two gentlemen here that English is not their first language, and they're doing a fantastic job in explaining in their second language how these products work. A gentleman that you're to be congratulated on the way we've had this conversation. Pontus, I'm going to come to you to round off before we look at if there's anything else we want to cover. So, in relation to decision makers, operators, and manufacturers, what should they be prioritizing when it comes to fire safety?
Something that we learn all our partners and think is important when looking at a machinery, if they're gonna put on a Fogmaker system, is to do a proper risk. We call it risk assessment or risk identification. That's number one. That's a key, and I think that goes with all the operators and manufacturers to do a proper risk assessment of the vehicle. Then to have an automatic suppression, and then maintainability. As I mentioned before, to do a proper maintenance of a vehicle or a system. Sometimes, to be honest, how good a bus or a excavator is, sometimes accidents happens and a fire will start. So proper maintenance is really important for everyone. And when I talk about risk identification, it means to check with if they have a diesel, hydraulics, if there's dust where things can settle, a dust in a closed compartment, if it's battery driven, etc.
This when we look at fire investigation reports and we look at case studies, very often what you see as being the causation is exactly the failures to do what you've just said, Pontus. It's that ongoing maintenance, the making sure the compartments are clear of any combustibles. How often have we closed the lid on our engine and thought, oh, I've left one of my cleaning rags in there, and you go back in and you take it out, and it's this pre-inspection regime that should really be going with it. And just as important, I feel, is the post use inspection, because during use, something may have happened that the operator was unaware of until he opens the lid to look and see if that there's been maybe a shredding of a belt or a slight leak from a hydraulic hose. So, yeah, definitely on the money when you say there about the need to carry out the inspections and the maintenance. And it's remembering that it's not just carrying out that maintenance and inspection, it's also recording that you've done it. Because very often these machines are used maybe 24 hours a day, with people changing and coming in to take over. So unless you're recording things that people can look in the logbook to say, oh, they picked that up earlier, I'm going to note that it's still there, it's not being done, then nobody's going to remember everything all of the time. Gentlemen, it's been great, and I say that with a lot of passion, because I get to speak to a lot of people in various sectors of the fire industry, and I'm grateful to sit and listen, and for you to share your knowledge and expertise, not only with me but also to the listeners. What I will say, there's our listeners are thirsty for knowledge all the time. Fogmaker.com is the website. There is so much information on there in relation to the various ways in which the product's been used. I've spent some time looking at that website, and it's easy to navigate. So get yourselves on there and learn some more. So all that's left for me to say is I'm Duncan White. I'm the managing editor of the International Fire and Safety Journal, and I've had the pleasure this afternoon of speaking to Gustav Stigsohn and Pontus Andersson from Fogmaker. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. I've been your host for today's podcast, and take care and stay safe, everyone.